Thanks for clicking on the video. I'm going to be breaking down my build as it currently sits on my C6 ZO6, my 07. I'll be getting into basically what it took financially to get it done. I'd say 85–90% of the work on the car was not done by me. I had it done by a shop because I had bought the car cash. So if I blew something up or didn't measure something correctly, I did not have the money to repair it. So I had saved up more money to get the work done. Since then, that's been 3 years I've been slowly building this car. This wasn't all at once. 3 years I've been building this car up. Like I said, when I bought it, it was bone stock. So the first thing I did with this being an LS7 car, the cylinder heads. In fact, I had ordered new cylinder heads before I had even left to go get this car, to go pick it up. I already ordered those. I got, which I will put here, I have the 260 Trickflow LS7 cylinder heads on this. Again, I did not put those on myself. The car also, it was starting top end down. The car has an MSD, atomic air intake manifold. I did that. That was about $1,200. And then paired with a K-Tech 103mm throttle body. I also put that on because I could handle that. That was easy. That was about $700–800. The cylinder heads were about $3,000 all said and done. After that, obviously, if I'm having a shop do the heads, well, why stop there? So I got a BTR Stage 3 LS7 cam, which I will post here, the specs on that. We also opened the top end up a little more, and we decided to go with Johnson lifters to stretch that RPM up. And we also had to now, measure for new push rods, which we ended up needing 7.825, I believe, was our end push rod length. So these cars redline at 7,000 from the factory. This one now redlines at 7,500. Not a huge jump, but you know what? 500 RPM. It basically gave me a new safety net. So now I shift at 7,300, giving me a 200 RPM kind of cushion. The next thing that happened to me while owning the car was, I don't know why, but I had basically in my bottom end, I was using 5W30 when I was doing my oil changes on this car, which is what this car calls for. I have now since changed my oil. I believe it's 10W40 is what I now use, and I haven't had this problem. 5W30 just for some reason just was not cutting it, or honestly, I attribute it to just really luck, which I always have the worst luck. I was getting a terrible squeak while the motor was running. Now my first thought was serpentine belt. It's probably the same belt from 2007 that's still on there. I changed the belt, sound didn't go away. I'm like, oh, that's not good. So I changed all my pulleys, my idler, my tensioner. I changed them out. And I bought another new belt, which wasn't necessary, but I did because I was being paranoid. Fire the car up, give it a few seconds, squeaks. The squeaking was coming from the back of the motor. So the part where where the flywheel is meeting up with your trans, that's where the squeak was coming from. So I took a video of it, which I will. Sounds like a belt, right? No, way worse. And by the way, I'd been driving the car like this for 3 weeks, and it pulled nasty, pulled fine, drove fine, idled fine. Nothing odd about it. Not a single weird thing about it. I drove it all the way to the shop, Hot Rods Performance, which has done most of the work on this for me. From where I live to this shop was like a 45-minute drive. Drove it all the way there, no problems. I drop it off to the owner, Caesar. He listens to it for a second. He's like, kill it. He pushes the car to the back. He won't even drive it a few feet. He pushes it. I'm like, oh, that looks expensive. For some reason, we had burned 2 bearings in the crank. I don't know how. The car, while I've owned it, it was pushing no boost. It stayed NA. Who knows about the last owner, I suppose. Long story short, now the car has a Callie's crank, because my crankshaft, he pulled it out. It was purple. They're not supposed to be purple. That thing was heat stressed. What we think happened, which thankfully, this car has never overheated on me. We think the car overheated on the last owner, or he's overheated it multiple times. We believe this car was tracked because it did have aftermarket coils and wheels when I picked it up. I believe this car was tracked. It must have overheated multiple times. It fried the crankshaft, and under my ownership is when we got to experience the results. The crank was purple. It had to be pulled out. Rods, pistons, just to be safe. We just changed it all. So I will now post the crankshaft. It is a Cali's crank. It's stock stroke, stock bore. I was going to maybe think about getting a stroker at that point, going to a 431. But again, I didn't think this was going to happen at all. I wasn't prepared money-wise. So I really had to cheap out while still getting quality parts. So we got Cali's crank, rods, and we got maul pistons, which I will post here what we have exactly if I can find it. So that very unexpected, which again, my luck, probably won't be yours. That everything said and done, parts and labor, that was $10,000, 10 grand that I was not expecting to spend. That 10 grand I was saving up for new axles, a built diff, built a ZR1 torque tube, a twin disc clutch, perhaps maybe getting some work on my trans. No luck, didn't happen. That had to go into the motor. So there it is, as you can see, an MSD intake manifold. We got 85-pound injectors on there, stock fuel pump still, but we're at about the limits of it. K-Tech, a 103 millimeter throttle body. Here's one of my new. Here's my new idler, or tensioner rather. Here's my new tensioner. Stock gearbox, because honestly, there's nothing wrong with it. I do have Speed Engineering exhaust, long tubes going all the way back, cheap, and they sound good. I think about $800 for the full exhaust for this car. The only issue though, if you do get long tubes or you're thinking about it, before you put them on, unlike me, because I'm an idiot, wrap them. Especially on this car, because as you can see, I have changed. This here is for my fan. My fan does not kick on because it keeps getting cooked because of these long tube headers. I have to fix this again. I'll have to fix this another time because now my fan has stopped working. So the headers will fry the male and or female end of your connector for your fan. So in traffic, this car gets hot and it will overheat. Luckily, I've been lucky, but you can see that gauge creep up. So engine breakdown again. Intake manifold is the MSD Atomic Air. Great. K-Tech throttle body. 260 trick flow heads. 85-pound injectors. BTR stage 3 cam. Johnson lifters that are allowing us to go to 7,500 RPM. Push rod length for these, for our current build, is 7.825 for our push rods. We had to measure for new push rods. I'm running, like most guys, I'm running welds because I think they look cool. I actually drive my car. Apologize for the dirtiness. Tire setup. I am running Mickey Thompson ET Street R's 315s. The stock car is 325s with some Michelins on it. They didn't have that size. They had 315 or I believe 335s, and that's too big. So I went with the 315s. Yeah, again, we are running a 35 tall tire on 17-inch rims here in the rear, 18s in the front, because again, they're welds, so I got smaller all the way around. I am going to probably go to 35s once this tread is a little worse for wear. I want to say I spent, I believe, about $400 per tire, I believe. I'll also post that in here. But yes, I will be going to 45s to get just get a taller tire. Really, mostly just for fitment for me personally, and that's really my only reason. I mean, I could lower the car to get the fitment tighter, but living here in the by the Great Lakes up here by Chicago, these roads are rough enough, and this car, if I lower it anymore, I'll barely be able to drive it. It's so dirty. I'm also running aftermarket coilovers. I have Viking coilovers on this car. Which I really won't be able to show you. You won't be able to see. Can you see in there? No, you can't see anything. I'm running Warriors in the front and Berserkers in the rear, which I will also post here. So, power. What does it make power-wise? I've never had this car dynoed, only street tuned. Power, we're thinking between 650 and 700.
Nice.
At the crank, because the car is still on 93 pump gas. It's an NA on pump gas that you can drive anywhere. Besides this fan, if you get stuck in traffic, as of now, you'd be kind of shit out of luck. But once I fix the fan again and then wrap these headers, I could take this car from my house all the way to San Francisco, and I'm sure it'd be fine. And that's the ultimate goal. This is a drag and drive car, set up for the quarter mile. Every event I have entered this year, unfortunately, they're all 8th mile, but they're all drag and drives, and really, I would like to take this car to Sick Week. That's down south, Florida. That's really where I'd like to take this. We're running mid to low 10s right now because I suck. I just can't shift fast enough. I'm just not good yet. This car is capable of 9s. It's more than capable of 9s. It weighs 3,100 pounds. It's making around 700 horse. Especially if I especially on those tires, it'll run 9s. It's just me, which is where my build is going from here. New rear axles, an RPM built differential, ZR1 torque tube, and then Liberty gears, face plated 1 through 4 T56, which is what I have in this. I'm going to change the rear axles first. That's my weakest link, is the rear axles. And after that, I'd probably do a clutch, a twin disc clutch after that. And just honestly, just wait till something breaks. This is probably where I'm at. Motor wise, honestly, I would like to bump the compression up on this car, switch to E85, and do a 150 shot of nitrous. Now for that, piston's got to come out again. Now we got to measure for appropriate ring gap. A lot of things change. But I'm hoping to get close on spray, with the button, with spray, get close to 1,000 crank on this car. I would love to rip a low 9-second pass. I would love to rip 20 in a row, because the number one thing on this car is reliability. This car is way overbuilt for the power it's making and the power it will be making. If I can run consistent 9-second, like low bottom 9s, do as many as I want in a row, turn around, drive an hour and a half back home, I don't want to trailer this car anywhere. I don't care how fast this car gets. I don't care if I take this motor out one day, drop in a Dart 440 with a Pro Charger and 1,800 wheel horsepower on the conservative tune. This car needs to be able to do drag and drives. Still do Sick Week. Right now, this year I'm doing Michigan's Drop the Hammer. And I plan on doing more than one event. Just normal, even just going to the track. The closest drag strip is an hour and a half for me. Just driving down there to do test and tunes, just because this car will stay. I'm going to pick reliability over power for this car. That's really the goal, is drag and drive.